Welcome to another episode of 5 Word Questions. I am so happy because today I have Fabiana Cruz. Fabiana Cruz was born into a family of artists, and when she was only 15 years old, she moved to Paris. Later on, she studied at La Sorbonne, where she studied fine arts, and her current work is a creation of animated videos where she translates music into forms, colors, and movement. Her work has been exhibited internationally in France, in Spain, in the US, in Venezuela, Panama, and Japan. Welcome, Fabiana.
Hi, nice to meet you. Finally.
Yes,
Thank you for having me.
thank you for coming. The first question is that, as I mentioned, you have always been in contact with the arts because your family has an amazing legacy, your grandfather being El Maestro Cruz. So, were you did you always want to be in the arts? Did you always want to be an artist or not?
No, not at all. And actually, I had to come to terms with the fact that I was one, I guess. Actually, I wanted to be a choir conductor. I think that if I had stayed in Venezuela, that's definitely what I would have become. And I think that I ended up doing what I do because I felt so frustrated that I couldn't do music anymore the same way that I used to do in Venezuela. And also, the definition of what an artist is has changed for me. Uh, because of my grandfather being a well-known artist, I guess that I was like, I'm not sure I want to go there. But he was a very open person. Like he always, I think that he was the one who encouraged me to do it because he's like, accept it, you're an artist. And I'm like, nope. And actually, the last year that he spent with us before he passed, actually, he was like, oh, but you're also a musician. Like he realized, and I was like, that felt good. But an artist per se, it was not really my intention, but I have come to realize that an artist is more of a way of living. It's more like a creative living, I guess. I know accountants that are real artists at what they do. So that's basically it. No, I didn't want to, but I had to. I kind of did.
Because you are an artist. um, the second question is that if you have ever felt your work hasn't been taken as seriously, maybe for just the fact of being a woman, which I think it's a dialogue that's coming back into conversation
Yeah,
nowadays.
I know that it's a very pertinent and important topic nowadays. I have to say that the fact that of me being a woman, it was an issue when I was a kid. Like growing up in Venezuela, I remember that I was always into more masculine activities, playing football or just climbing trees and that sort of thing. And you know, it was horrible because I wanted to play with boys because though they were the ones playing football, and they were like, no, you're a girl. And I'm like, damn it, I mean, I'm good. And this was the definition of get good. I had to get so good at those activities that they wanted me in their teams, and even then they were very reluctant. And on the other side, because I was into all of these boys activities, then girls didn't want to play with me either. So that's when I felt, I think, that you're a girl thing. But luckily, growing up, I've been so lucky with the people that I've grown up with and the family that I've grown up with. And even here in France, I've never felt ever again that the fact that I was a woman was a problem, and even less in the creative arts. So I must say that I am very lucky, and I know that this is not everybody's experience, and I respect that. But I consider myself very privileged and lucky that that hasn't been the experience for a long time.
That's amazing. The third question is your work explores, as we were commenting before, music and image. And throughout history, many artists have who have dabbled in both have had synesthesia, and I was wondering about that. Even before reading that, you actually have talked about this, the first thing that came to my mind when I saw your work was this. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, I discovered what synesthesia was years after I started doing what I was doing. And I discovered that there were other artists back in the 30s that were doing those same things. Like that was like a couple of years ago, and it was ridiculous. And I had been doing this since, man, 2005. And I discovered synesthesia maybe in 2007 or 2008, and then there you go. I don't have pure synesthesia.
Okay.
Synesthesia comes in all shapes and forms and all shapes and intensities, I guess. There's pure synesthesia, which is people who actually go around, walking around just seeing colors like with their eyes, right? If they hear a sound, or even like there's like this, I read this book where this lady, when she touched meat with her fingers, had like this bitter taste in her mouth. So it can take really any type of shape or form. But what I do, I don't have that type of synesthesia. What I have is associative synesthesia, which is a much more common type of synesthesia. And I think that we're all capable of it, and we all do it to a point. It's a common trait because it's kind of how the brain works, and like neuronal paths that are slowly but surely kind of connecting different parts of the brain. And then with time, the thing is that the first thing that comes to me, it's a movement. When I hear a sound, there's like a very clear movement in my head. I don't see it, I don't feel it. It's just a sensation that is very abstract and like in my mind's eye. And then comes a color, and then comes a shape. And that's in the final thing what I try to kind of put together. And it's very kind of there are certain patterns. The more I work, the more I discover that, oh, okay, these things I associated with the same thing. But also I can witness events in everyday life, like, I don't know, a cube of sugar absorbing some coffee. To me, that has a particular sound. So it doesn't go only from shape to sound. You can go from sound to shape, and sometimes even architecture, and the very geometrical shapes and patterns of architecture will inspire a music. So actually, that's something that I do. I do mappings on buildings, creating music for those particular shapes on that building.
Great. So that partially answered the fourth question, but still relevant, which is, what comes first, sound or image, and how is your creative process?
Man, my creative process is it's a bit problematic because I've always created when I'm like inspired. And the thing is that that makes that I have like these very productive, kind of intense periods where I create a lot, and then barren, lonely kind of nothingness. And I've been trying to actually remedy to that, in the sense where I recently discovered something that kind of changed my whole perspective on creating regularly. And it's that we think that we create or we act when we're motivated, but actually the trick is that action precedes motivation. So it's not about discovering what motivates you, it's about discovering what triggers your action, because once you're in the action, the brain just follows along, and it, you got that flame that gets sparked again. And yeah, with the synesthesia, yeah, it always comes with a movement first. I'm not a dancer at all, but I do see like this giant space with things moving in it, and then color comes, and then shapes. Or sometimes it can vary, but always movement first.
And the fifth question, last question, is, how has the pandemic impacted your work?
In my case, I must say wonderfully. It's horrible because the world is like falling apart. But in my case, it has granted me a space of kind of slowing down. 2019 was a horrible year for me, like a very transformative, painful series of experiences. And 2020 has been like a year of healing. And the fact that the world came to a stop and everyone kind of along with it gave me like a space to find myself again, to to reclaim creative spaces in my life. So to me, that has been awesome. And also the fact of putting those creations out there. I'm very insecure about my work, so I've always had a very difficult time kind of putting my work out there. But there's this book that I read that changed my life regarding that, which is called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And
Yes.
oh my God, that book changed my life. And I've kind of just detached from the outcome of my creations, and I try to focus on just the mere fact of creating, because at the end of the day, that's what should matter. And the fact of putting it out there actually brought me very, very nice projects and opportunities that I'm very grateful for. So whatever it is that you create, put it out there. There's always, everyone has their audience, and once you find it, it's pretty cool.
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much for joining us today in 5 Word Questions. And you can follow Fabi on Instagram at Fabi Cruz. And
Art. FabiCruz.art.
okay, .art. And then you can follow her and see her amazing work. Thank you.